Sometimes people cling to a comforting lie because the truth feels like a blade against the skin. Friedrich Nietzsche knew this well. He once said, "Sometimes people do and want to hear the truth because they do and want their illusions destroyed." Think back to what they told you about love. From childhood stories to pop songs, they fed you the myth. Love will save you. Nature writes with a scalpel, cutting through the masks, the myths, the layers of emotional fluff you wrap around your ego to keep yourself safe. When nature looked at love, when he looked at women, at the way we bond, what he saw wasn't polite. It wasn't the fairy tale, but it was real. And that reality for most men still feels too raw to face head-on. The right woman will come along and patch up the cracks you never dared to look at alone. Her touch will be pure, redemptive, unconditional, while you dream about soulmates and forever after. She's weighing the true cost of closeness, measuring need against control, desire against influence. Not because she's evil, but because she learned long ago. The one who sees the game but never names it is the one who stays winning. Because as long as you believe her affection is without motive, you'll keep handing over your agency for the cheap price of emotional security. She doesn't hoard that power because she hates you. She accepts it because the system taught her to use it. You love the version of her that makes you feel like the man you wish you were. He saw that what we call love is often just a silent competition for emotional territory. Who controls the rhythm of closeness? Who holds out longer? Who caves in last? These aren't sweet questions about affection. They're about power. You like the worship. You crave the emotional anesthesia that keeps you from facing your own reflection. You give her everything. Your time, your identity, your devotion, and you call it honesty. You don't understand her because you've never dared to question your own myths. You still think love is about unity. She knows love is about leverage. She gives you just enough breadcrumbs to keep you chasing, and she calls it connection. But it's not connection, it's choreography. It's not because she's gone, but because the reflection you adored in her eyes goes with her. Nietzsche would stand beside you and say you never loved her. You loved the way she made you feel about yourself. You think you're loving her purely, freely? Look closer. What you're really doing is bargaining. It's not her fault. It's not yours. And just like that, she shapes you. Your choices, your beliefs, your sense of self, without ever raising her voice. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. It's the result of centuries where men ruled the outer world and women became queens of the inner one. And now, in modern love, you step right into the trap with a smile on your face. Not to your grand confessions, but to your needs. The vulnerabilities you reveal are blueprints, mapping out every emotional pressure point you carry. She picks up on them fast. Not because she's cruel, but because each vulnerability becomes a position in your mind where she lodges herself like an anchor. You're saying, if I give you my heart, will you heal the parts of me I'm too scared to face alone? You're not hunting for a partner, you're hunting for a solution. Because the second you stop needing her to be your redemption, you'll have to confront the raw truth of what's behind that need. That, not heartbreak, is what really terrifies you. To put her on a pedestal so high you can see her for who she really is. You tell yourself she's morally superior by nature, that her love is selfless, that her devotion is pure. But what if those are just masks she learned to wear because they keep the system running in her favor? You love how she mirrors back an image of you as enough, worthy, wanted, whole. But validation isn't love. What you've been calling love might just be a beautifully designed illusion that keeps you emotionally obedient. You bought into it not because you were foolish or naive, but because no one ever handed you the tools to see through the illusion. What if that promise was never real? What if the love you keep chasing isn't salvation at all, but strategy in disguise? And what if nature, that old philosopher you were taught to either fear or ignore, saw it all coming from the start? Nature never wrote bedtime stories. They had to master power behind the curtains. They learned to fight with silence to control through suggestion. You mistake her strategy for softness, confuse her adaptability with innocence. You think she's fragile. You think her tenderness is purity, but it's not. It's power, refined, rehearsed, and delivered with precision. Not because they're inherently manipulative, but because they were forced to survive in the shadows while men claimed the stage and the spotlight. Here's the truth that hits hardest. You don't love her. Women throughout history were never given the swords or crowns. That's where the modern man keeps tripping over his own ignorance. While you pour your heart out and pat yourself on the back for being vulnerable, she's listening for leverage points. And what about you? You were taught to idolize her. Nietzsche didn't pull back the curtain to bash women. He did it to shatter the childish myths men tell themselves. You're not being loved, you're being handled. And what's even scarier, you like it? You like the warm blanket of the illusion. But fear is a master of disguise. And one of its favorite masks is romantic devotion. And as you lay your soul at her feet, she's listening. Nature saw this dance for what it is. And here's the uncomfortable punchline. The one who needs less always controls more. We live in a culture where women are taught to steer influence without appearing to lead. While men are taught to submit while believing they're conquering, she doesn't have to shout, she only has to whisper. She doesn't have to demand, she only has to desire. You call her mysterious because you don't understand her. And when she pulls away, it shatters you. She was the stage where you performed your worth. And when the stage is dismantled, all that's left is silence and the truth. She didn't betray you. She simply stepped out of the role you wrote for her. You didn't love her. You loved the fantasy you projected onto her, the muse, the healer, the good girl. He condemned men who refused to grow up, men who craved muses instead of mirrors, who longed for angels instead of daring to face real human beings with all their glorious, terrifying contradictions. If you're brave enough to stop pointing the finger at her, maybe you're finally ready to turn that finger inward. It's not in guilt, not in shame, but in clear-eyed honesty. From that honesty, something radical can begin to take shape. And when she stopped acting out that fantasy, you called her cold. You labeled her cruel. You were taught that love is the highest virtue, that to love selflessly is the sign of a good man. And you turned her into a mirror, a stage, a cure. That's the quiet mantra playing in the background of your desperation. But a mantra is not reality. The moment reality intrudes, you call it betrayal. You remember the times? She smiled, but now you see it. Behind that smile was calculation. You remember how she'd sense your mood shifts before you ever voiced them. You thought it was a gift, that she was magically intuitive, and she was. But intuition for her isn't some mystical force, it's survival. When you stop seeking the script and start seeing the reality, you'll notice something that's always been there, hidden in plain sight. Not because she wants to control you, but because this is the only power she's been allowed to wield. Ask yourself if you're ready to see her clearly. And if you are, only then can you finally see yourself clearly too. And that's when love stops being a fairy tale and starts being a revolution. Not malice, it's not manipulation, but instinct. Nietzsche would call it what it really is, an awakening. You get the chance to stand in front of another person as you really are. Flaws, fears, strategies, instincts, all laid bare. This isn't about painting women as villains. It's about seeing how things really are. And when that mirror cracks, you don't feel simple heartbreak. You feel like the ground has fallen away. You called her gentle when she was observant, called her nurturing when she was strategic. If it opens your eyes even for a moment, share it, like it, subscribe. Not because this is entertainment, because you're tired of living inside the dream and you're ready to wake up. You learn to face the cracks you used to hide behind your tenderness. You learn to love not out of need, but out of choice. You thought she surrendered, when really, she was choosing. Something nature might actually approve of. A bond between two people who see each other not as solutions, but as sovereign beings. No pedestal, no rescue fantasy, no illusions, just reality. Always choosing. She understood something you never did. The one who sees the dynamic clearly always holds the key. Not because she was your everything, but because the story you built your sense of worth on just collapsed in your hands. They whisper, this time, it'll be different. But it won't, because the roles haven't changed. Only the actors have. And until you stop needing her to play a part, you'll never actually meet the human being behind the mask. But what if that selflessness is really just emotional dependency wearing a poetic mask? What if underneath the flowers and the grand declarations, there's a secret fear pulsing? If I don't give her everything, she won't stay. Where vulnerability is marketed as the highest virtue, but wielded like currency in a negotiation. And the moment you wake up to this, you have a choice. Grow up or break down. But maybe the real betrayal was yours. You betrayed her humanity by forcing her into a script she never signed up for. You shave off pieces of your identity to fit an ideal you think she'll reward. Not because you love her, but because you fear being left alone with your raw self. That's not nobility. That's submission painted up to look like romance. And while you tell yourself you're being courageous, she feels something else entirely. Nietzsche didn't condemn women. It's not the death of love. It's the transformation of it. So you overextend. You compromise more than you should. She feels control, not the harsh, obvious kind. Not force, but presence. The presence of a man so eager to orbit around her approval that he doesn't even realize he's lost his center. That's the uncomfortable truth Nietzsche hinted at, a truth so few are willing to hear. When love is rooted in need, it can never be equal. She may never say a word about what you must become, but you mold yourself anyway. She may never ask you to bend your boundaries, but you do it gladly. She may never demand your loyalty, yet you surrender it in the hope that her acceptance will save you from yourself. But here's the thing. She didn't volunteer to be your savior. She was just living her life, just being herself. She loves me, I'm whole. If she stays, I matter. The lie was never that she had power. The lie was that you refused to see it. And now slowly the illusion starts to crack. It's her way of staying ahead in a world that historically didn't give her the open power to confront, only the hidden power to influence. You exist in a world that sells love as mutual surrender, but teaches it as mutual leverage. Most men break. They run back to the myth. They find another muse, another woman to carry the fantasy for them. But here's the question worth sitting with. What happens when the mask is gone? A woman who's learned through centuries of conditioning that if she can hold institutional power, she'll master relational power instead. So don't ask if she's ready to love you purely, because when you strip away the myth, you don't get something soft and sweet. You get something real, raw, and alive. And instead of asking her to rescue you from yourself, you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. And that right there is where the story stops repeating itself. That's where something new begins. If this makes you uncomfortable, good. It means it's working. When you finally see through the illusion, you realize you were never fighting her. You were fighting the story you wrapped around her. You made her the healer for your wounds, the muse for your art, the shelter for your insecurities. And in that silence, you're left standing face to face with your own reflection. Stripped of all the costumes you dressed her in, you asked her to be the stage and the spotlight. And when she stepped off that stage, this is about seeing what's been hidden behind centuries of myths. Songs, poems, and love stories that taught you to chase angels instead of accepting humans. You'll see how your need to be chosen made you blind. How your fear of facing your own pain made you easy to handle. How your craving for salvation made you surrender your agency while congratulating yourself for being a good man. Because real honesty demands that you stop romanticizing your need. Not as a balm for your wounds, but as a fire that burns away your illusions. She's a person. Strategic, instinctive, intuitive, adaptive. The man who stops begging to be completed is the man who becomes whole by choice. And that's what Nietzsche tried to gift you. The awareness that the illusions keeping you obedient were never hers alone. They were yours. A person who carries her own fears, her own tactics, her own stories about closeness and control. Keep giving away your agency for the price of emotional anesthesia, or sit with the discomfort of growing up. Stop surrendering to the scripts. You stand there, eye to eye, no pedestal, no fantasy, no rescue story. Just two humans, both powerful, both flawed, both free. Share it. Leave your thoughts. Subscribe, not for me, but for you. Stay asleep in the myth, or wake up to the strategy, the instinct, the raw beauty of seeing things as they actually are. He becomes someone worth loving, not for what he gives away, but for what he stands for. When you stop needing her to be something she's not, you make room for her to be real, not as rescue, but as a meeting point between two sovereign minds. It demands that you say, I am incomplete, but that is my work to do, not hers. It demands that you stand naked with your flaws, knowing she has her own. Because she's human, because she changed, because she grew, you felt betrayed. But was it really betrayal? Or was it the truth that was always waiting for you? Nietzsche would stand behind you and whisper, "She didn't deceive you. She stopped performing." This is the crack that lets the light in if you let it. Because this isn't about hating her. This isn't about blaming yourself. If it broke something open inside you, don't rush to patch it up with another illusion. Sit with the crack. Let the light come through. If you dare to see her without the fantasy, you'll see yourself without the disguise. But the good man myth is dangerous. It tells you that selflessness is virtue, when sometimes it's just cowardice, dressed up pretty. Because when two people stand together like that, there is no leverage. There is no bargaining. There's no choreography of manipulation. There's only choice. It's the fear of being alone with yourself. The fear of sitting in your own darkness without asking someone else to light it up for you. The push and pull, the withholding and rewarding, the tension that kept you spinning in confusion. All of it is revealed for what it is. A negotiation for power between two people who were never taught how to be honest with themselves first. And here's the twist. The moment you stop demanding someone else fix your shadows is the moment you stop being easy to control. Because when you don't need her to complete you, her influence can't bend you. When you see that her mystery was never about secrets but survival instincts, you stop punishing her for being strategic. You start respecting it. And maybe you learn to match it with your own clarity. Suddenly the games stop feeling like traps. They become transparent. But honesty is terrifying. And maybe, just maybe, that's where you finally see love clearly. She is not your redemption. She is not your healer. She is not your mother. And you make room for you to be real too. So here's your crossroads. Keep searching for the woman who'll make the pain vanish, or accept that no one can. If you choose to wake up, you stop being so easy to handle. That's where love becomes something else. Something nature might actually respect. So if this rattled you, good. Let it. And when you're ready, really ready, stop asking her to be your redemption. Be your own. Then watch how the game changes. If you're done with illusions, if you're ready to see love as it is, raw, imperfect, unmasked, then don't just watch this and scroll away. Because the man who chooses truth over fantasy, strategy over submission, clarity over comfort, that man doesn't need to be handled. And that's where the real revolution begins.